We are now going to start a series of 7 videos. It will show you how time was created. If you understand what time is, you will be able to understand the heavenly war from the beginning to end. Because when the devil fell here on earth, along with one third of angels, the war was always about time. These one third of angels, together with the ancient serpent, always brought to have time. This is the war. When there is no more time inside the cube, life will end. So we will start with Revelation chapter 12 verses 9 through 12 because you will be able to understand that the heavenly war of those who fell from heaven to earth was always about time. Let's read chapter 12 verses 9 to 12 from Revelation. The great dragon was hurled down, the ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angel with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, now have come to the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of the Messiah. For the accuser of our brother and sister, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been held down. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Therefore, rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them, but who to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury, because he knows that his time is short. I want to read this verse so that you can understand that his great anger is due to lack of time. When this happens, and it is soon to happen, the devil's anger is because his time is short, because we know that the millennial government will begin. But to understand his speech, that he is angry because he has little time for himself, we will have to go back to the beginning, a beginning that has never been shown to you in this way. We will go beyond Genesis, but if you ask yourself how, in this video you will understand. Let's read the first verse of Genesis, the creation of heaven and the earth and everything in them. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. So in this verse Yahweh talks about the creation of heaven and earth. But we will go before this verse. What we will show you is before this verse of Genesis. So you have an understanding where the third earth was being built. Where Genesis was being built. Genesis is the building of the third earth so that you understand the world we live in today. How it's possible to go beyond Genesis, before Genesis? You can go to the firmament. The firmament shows you this if you read the chapter Psalms 19. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies, firmament, proclaim the work of his hands. Look, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies, firmament, proclaim the works of his hands. So through the firmament you can know the works of Yahweh. The heavenly Father left everything reading in the firmament. This is the true gospel of the stars, where no man placed his hand, only the Father. Psalms 8. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is making that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You see how beautiful is it? How everything is found in it in the scriptures. So through the firmament I can go beyond Genesis. How the sky was created before matter. And that is what we will explain now. The firmament is the book of life. All the information contained in the firmament code comes from the source code, and this source code is the Messiah himself. The source code is the Messiah. Everything was made for him, and all memories are contained in the central sun. All the memory of the source code was transmitted to the central sun, and it is he who creates all holography, and it is he who creates all the firmament. So much so that the polar stars is the focal point of the central sun. The focal point here is the star Polaris. This focal point comes from the central sun, and the firmament rotates around the star Polaris, and that is why Polaris is the gate to heaven. In heaven, you have 48 celestial halls. There are 12 major halls and 36 minor halls. The firmament will show you 12 constellations that represent the 12 celestial halls. And you have 4 angels holding the firmament, which can be read in verse of the will of Ezekiel. You have 12 constellations in heaven, and here on earth you have the 12 tribes of Israel. As it is in heaven, it is also on earth. Why do we have 12 tribes that represent the sons of Jacob? Because here, we who are on earth comes from these major halls. We did not come from the minor halls, because we come from the 12 major halls that comes from heaven, that is put in the source code memory, that is why it shows in the firmament. Why is in the firmament that Ark of the Covenant? Because you have 4 priests who carry the ark, and in the firmament, the 4 angels who hold the firmament. So then the firmament is the Ark of the Covenant. So you understand this coding. And now I'm going to explain to you how I know what heaven is like. In this image, you have the Polaris star, which is the focal point that I showed you, and you will have the 12 constellations around the Polaris star. These 12 constellations are the 12 largest celestial halls that exist in the sky. And then you will have 36 smaller halls that are after these largest halls in this image. So you will have a greater understanding. So the smaller saloons are behind the bigger saloons in the sky, which is this image up there in the sky. So you have 12 major halls and around 36 minor halls, which will give you a total of 48 celestial halls. Modern astronomy has adopted more constellations, but I will stick with the same constellations from the studies of the prophet Daniel, who speaks of only 48 constellations allowed to be studied. These others that astronomy created by man, God allowed only 48 to be studied. That's why I adopt in my studies only those contained in the studies of the prophet Daniel. So through the firmament you can know what the construction is like up, that is in the sky, because the works of the Creator were made by his fingers in the firmament. Since the firmament was taken away from the church does not understand. So then we return to a time where our material world does not yet exist. We return to a time where our material world doesn't exist. Neither the material cube nor the spiritual cube. Only the skies that are ion, where only ion time exists, where Kairos and Chronos doesn't exist. The Creator is in the heaven, and he wants to create the cube. He wants to create matter. So, how did all this begin? How did the Creator begin the construction of the material world? So through this humble channel, you will have it to understand of Genesis and the understanding of the celestial war, because what is being taught here is before Genesis. How it's possible? It is the firmament and the work is of the Creator. We have a light that comes from the ion. The light comes from the ion, and the Creator would have to slow down the light so that he could start creating matter. The density of matter to create this material world in which we live. So, how did the Creator start to slow down this light? To create the material plan? Yahweh is in the heavens, and he will begin the construction. To start slowing down the light that is at high speed in Ion, where there is no time, then the Creator made a spiritual cube. This spiritual cube is in the first cube of the tesseract. As the light passes through this cube, it slows down. So he starts to slow down the non-time ion to create the Kairos cube. So when he creates Kairos, he is creating the slowdown of this infinity light of ion. That's why in our 3D dimensions, the light rotates 300,000 kilometers per second, if I'm not mistaken. But it is just a fact because we are explaining the first creation of the first cube. So he builds the first spiritual cube to slow down the light of ion. This image, for you to understand, this light which is ion comes from here. So he creates the cube that's being represented by the color yellow. He is slowing down this light because he wants to create the time. So he builds the first cube which is spiritual. Our world was made from the outside in, not from the inside out. So that's how the creator first created the Kairos spiritual cube. There was nothing, so he created a spiritual cube to slow down the light comes from Yahom. Shalom Adonai.